The property lawyer called me on a Sunday morning. He sounded uneasy. "Mr. Ellis, I got a strange request. Your daughter-in-law asked my office to start eviction paperwork on the house at 1400 Behringer. She says the old man living there refuses to leave. Sir, that old man is you. And you own the building. I thought you should know before I do anything." I set down my coffee. My own family was trying to evict me from a house I have owned for 30 years, and they had no idea who they were dealing with. Welcome back to the Forgotten Parent. Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories had every chance to do right by the ones who raised them. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to want to stay till the end. My name is Vernon Ellis. I am 72 years old. I live in Roanoke, Virginia. I wear flannel shirts and old work pants. I keep my money in a credit union and my truck for 20 years. People see a quiet old widower who probably gets by on a thin pension. That is what I let them see. There is a kind of freedom in looking like you have nothing. Nobody circles a man they think is already picked clean. My hands tell the real story. They are thick and scarred. 40 years of hammers and pipe wrenches. I have shingled roofs in July. I have crawled under houses in January. I never hired out what I could do myself. That is how you keep a thing. You work it with your own hands. Money you earn slow, you guard well. Money that comes easy you spend like a fool. I earned every dollar the slow way. So I guard it the careful way. I never told my son the numbers. That was on purpose. I did not want Dennis waiting on an inheritance. I wanted him building his own life. A boy who knows his father is rich stops trying. A boy who thinks his father is broke learns to stand. It mostly worked. It might have worked better if I had never let Sheila in the door. But you cannot see every storm coming. You can only build a house strong enough to survive it. I built mine strong. Louise made sure of that. But quiet does not mean poor. For 40 years I bought houses, not fancy ones. Working houses, the kind young families rent while they save up. I fixed leaky roofs myself. I unclogged drains at midnight. I kept my rents fair and my properties honest. Slowly, one house at a time, I built something. I own 11 rental homes now. Every one of them is paid off. But you would never know it to look at me. My wife Louise and I did it together. She kept the books. I swung the hammer. We never took a vacation we could not pay cash for. We raised our son Dennis in a small house on Behringer Street, the same house I still live in today. Louise passed 3 winters ago. The house has been very quiet since. Some nights the quiet is the loudest thing in it. Let me tell you about the first house. It was 1982. We were young and broke. A rundown duplex was going to auction. Everyone said it was a money pit. I saw good bones under the rot. Louise counted every dollar we had. It was barely enough. She looked at me and said, "Vernon, if we do this, we eat beans for a year." We did it. We ate a lot of beans. I fixed that duplex with my own 2 hands. We rented it out. Then we bought the next one. That is how an empire starts. Not with luck, with beans and blisters. Louise had a saying, "Own the paper, and no one can move you." She meant the deeds. She kept everyone in a fireproof box under our bed. She logged every payment in a green ledger. She was the most careful woman I ever knew. I used to tease her about it. "Nobody's coming for our little houses, Lou," she would just smile. "Someday somebody will try, Vernon, and we'll be ready." She was right. She was always right. She just did not know the somebody would be sitting at our own dinner table. When she got sick, near the end, she made me promise 2 things. Keep the paper clean. And do not get lonely and foolish. I kept the first promise perfectly. The second one, I am ashamed to say, I broke. Loneliness made me foolish. It made me open my door to a woman with hungry eyes. But Louise, even gone, had made sure the paper would save me. That was her last gift. Careful hands reaching out of the past to hold me up. My son Dennis is 46. He married a woman named Sheila 5 years ago. Sheila is the kind of person who measures a room by what she can get out of it. When Louise died, Sheila started coming around. She was sweet at first. Too sweet. "Vernon, you shouldn't be in this big house alone. Let us move in and take care of you." I was lonely. I said yes. That was my mistake. I let loneliness open a door that greed walked right through. Dennis and Sheila moved into my house on Behringer. My house, the one I have owned outright since 1994. But here is the thing. I never made a show of owning things. I never bragged about the rentals. Dennis knew I had a few properties, but he never knew how many, and he never knew they were all paid off. And Sheila, well, Sheila assumed. She looked at my flannel shirts and my old truck and decided I was a broke old man sitting on one house she could take. At first it was small. Sheila rearranged the furniture Louise had chosen. She boxed up Louise's things without asking. Just decluttering Vernon, she put my recliner in the garage. She started calling it our house in front of company. I let it go. I told myself it was just her way. I told myself family is worth swallowing your pride. I was wrong about that. Some pride is just self-respect wearing work clothes. Then it got worse. They started treating me like a boarder in my own home. Sheila would knock on my bedroom door and remind me of house rules. No TV after 9. Don't use the good dishes. Stay out of the kitchen when she was cooking. My own kitchen, where Louise taught our son to make pancakes. I was being slowly pushed into one small room of the house I built my whole life around. And my son said nothing. He just looked away, the way weak men do. Small things add up. Sheila started opening my mail. Just sorting the junk, Vernon, she changed the thermostat and told me not to touch it. She invited her own family for the holidays and sat me at the end of the table like a distant uncle. At Thanksgiving, in my own dining room, she carved the turkey and served everyone but me first. I sat there with an empty plate in the house I have owned for 30 years. Nobody noticed. Or nobody wanted to. The worst was Louise's garden. She had tended it for decades. Roses, tomatoes, a little bench where she liked to sit at dusk. One spring morning I came outside and Sheila had torn it all out. It was overgrown, Vernon. I put in gravel. Much easier. Louise's roses, in a heap by the trash. I knelt down and picked one up. The thorn cut my hand. I did not feel it. I felt something else. I felt the last warm thing in that woman leave the room for good. You can insult a man, but you do not tear out his dead wife's roses and call it tidying. There is a special ache in being made a stranger in your own home. To have your late wife's things boxed up by someone who never loved her. To be told the rules of a house whose mortgage you burned 20 years ago. So many of us give our children everything and then watch them treat our lives like an inconvenience. I felt it in that house every single day. And still I stayed quiet. Because I was listening. Because quiet men hear the most. Then one evening I heard Sheila on the phone in the kitchen. She did not know I was in the hallway. "Once we get the old man into a home, the house is ours," she said. "Dennis is his only heir. We just have to make it look like he can't take care of himself. Then we push him out and sell this place. It's worth a fortune." Then she laughed. A cold little laugh, and something in my chest went very still and very clear. She was not planning to care for me. She was planning to file me away like an old tax form. Declare me unfit, push me into a home, take my house, and sell it. She thought I was a lonely widower with one asset and no fight left in me. She had no idea. She had walked into the house of a landlord who has handled 100 difficult tenants, and she thought she could evict me from my own life. The next week, the eviction request came. That is when my lawyer called me on that Sunday morning. Sheila had actually contacted a legal office to start removing me from my own home. She was so sure I did not really own it, or so sure I was too foggy to fight, that she made a move in the open. It was the most arrogant thing I ever saw. And arrogance, I have learned, is just a gift a foolish person hands to a patient one. I did not confront them. I did not yell. A yelling old man is exactly what they wanted, proof he is unstable. Instead, I went very, very quiet, the way I do when a pipe bursts at midnight and panicking would only flood the house faster. I made myself a cup of coffee. I sat in Louise's chair by the window. And I started to handle it the way I have handled every problem for 40 years. Calmly, thoroughly, completely. If you've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people watch without ever doing it. But it costs you nothing and means everything to us. Thank you genuinely. Now let me tell you how an old landlord handles a tenant who forgot to read the lease. The first thing I did was call my lawyer back. His name is Walt Bridges. He has handled my properties for 25 years. Walt, I said, I want you to do nothing about the eviction. Let them think it's moving forward. But I want you to pull every deed I hold. And I want you to confirm, in writing, that the house on Beringer is mine, free and clear, with no claim by anyone. Walt chuckled. Vernon, that'll take me an afternoon. You've got the cleanest paperwork of any client I've ever had. Louise saw to that. God bless her careful hands. The second thing I did was start paying attention like a landlord again. When you own rentals for 40 years, you learn to document everything. So I did. Every time Sheila said a house rule, I wrote it down with the date. Every time she called it our house in front of a witness, I noted it. When she boxed up more of Louise's things, I photographed the boxes. I was building a record. Quietly, the way I document a tenant before an eviction. Because I had a feeling I would need it. I have evicted exactly 4 tenants in 40 years. I hate doing it, but I learned how to do it right. You never lose your temper. You never make it personal. You gather your facts, you follow the law to the letter, and you never ever tip your hand before you are ready. A good landlord is a patient man with a full folder. Sheila thought she was dealing with a sad old widower. She was actually dealing with the most patient evictor in Roanoke County. She just could not see it under the flannel. Walt, my lawyer, called me back that same week with the confirmation. Vernon, he said, the Beringer house is airtight. Yours alone. No liens, no claims. Louise's paperwork is a thing of beauty. I thanked him. Then I asked him one more thing. I asked him to quietly draw up a 30-day notice to vacate, with my daughter-in-law's name on it, and hold it in his drawer until I said the word. Walt laughed his dry lawyer laugh. You're going to evict your own daughter-in-law from your own house at a dinner party, aren't you? Walt, I said, I am going to do it politely, and I am going to do it with the good dishes. I also did something Sheila never expected. I started being extra sharp, extra capable. She wanted to prove I could not take care of myself, so I made very sure that everyone who mattered saw the opposite. I fixed the neighbor's fence. I helped a young couple down the street with their taxes. I showed up to the credit union and had a long, sharp conversation with the manager, who has known me for 30 years. I was quietly building a wall of witnesses who would swear Vernon Ellis was sharp as a tack. Then I called my granddaughter. Dennis has a daughter from his first marriage. Her name is Katie. She is 24, and she is the only one in that family with Louise's heart. Katie had noticed things too. Grandpa, she told me on the phone, her voice shaking, Sheila's been telling people you're losing it. She told Dad you left the stove on, but Grandpa, I was there. You didn't. She turned it on herself and blamed you. My blood ran cold. And then it ran clear. Now I had a witness inside the house. Katie became my quiet ally. She started paying attention. She overheard Sheila coaching Dennis on what to tell a doctor. She saw Sheila hide my reading glasses and then tell me I had lost them again. Every trick Katie caught. She wrote it down for me. She was young and brave, and she loved her grandmother's memory too much to let it be boxed up and sold. I told her to be careful. I told her family was watching family now. We had a system. Katie came over for dinner twice a week. She always brought her phone. She always kept notes. After each visit, she would text me a summary. Not the words themselves, just a signal. Grandpa, gardens looking good meant nothing happened. Grandpa, cold front coming meant Sheila had made another move. It was a small code between an old man and his granddaughter. It kept her safe. And it kept the record growing. One night Katie called me, crying, "Grandpa, I heard her tell Dad she found a nursing home 2 hours away. She said the farther the better, so you can't just walk home. 2 hours away. From the house I built my life in. She wanted to bury me somewhere I could not find my way back." That was the night I stopped feeling sad. There is a point where grief turns into resolve. I reached it that night, on the phone, listening to my granddaughter cry over a nursing home brochure her stepmother left on the counter like a threat. I told Katie to keep that brochure. I told her to photograph the search history if she safely could. I never asked her to put herself in danger. But that brave girl did more than I ever asked. She built the case that saved my home. A 24-year-old with her grandmother's spine. Louise would have been so proud she'd have baked for a week. I want to be honest about the hard part. There was a night I almost gave up the whole plan. Dennis knocked on my door. For a moment he was just my boy again. He sat on the edge of my bed. "Dad," he said, "I know things are weird with Sheila. I'm sorry." And I almost told him everything right there. I almost said, "Son, your wife is trying to steal my house. Come stand with your father." But then he added, "But maybe a smaller place would be easier on you, Dad. Sheila thinks." And there it was. Sheila thinks. My son had no thoughts of his own anymore. He was just an echo of the woman robbing me. That was the moment I stopped hesitating. My son had a chance to be a man, and he chose to be a mouthpiece. So I finished the job. I gathered everything. The deeds, Katie's notes, my photographs, my wall of witnesses. And I planned the one thing Sheila would never see coming. Because she thought this was a house with one lonely old man in it. She did not understand she was living, rent-free, in the property of a man who evicts people for a living. I decided to handle it at a family dinner. Sheila loved to host dinners where she played the gracious lady of her house, so I asked her to host a big one. I said I wanted to discuss my future living situation. Sheila was thrilled. She thought I was finally surrendering. She thought the old man was ready to be filed away. She cooked a beautiful meal in my kitchen and set my table with Louise's good dishes she had forbidden me to touch. She invited Dennis's brother and a few relatives to witness my decision. She had no idea she was setting the stage for her own eviction. The night of the dinner came. The table was full. Sheila stood at the head of it, glowing, playing hostess in a house she thought she had already won. She tapped her glass. "We're all here because Vernon has something to say about moving to a place that's easier for him." She smiled at me like a cat at a cornered bird. "Go ahead, Vernon." I stood up slowly. I did not shake. I have stood in front of angry tenants and stubborn contractors for 40 years. A dinner table did not scare me. "Thank you, Sheila," I said calmly. "Yes, I do have an announcement about who is living in this house." I reached into the folder beside my plate. "But first, let me clear up a small confusion. You keep calling this our house. I'd like to fix that." I laid the deed on the table. This house has been mine, paid in full, since 1994, 20 years before you ever met my son. Sheila's smile flickered. "Well, of course, Vernon, but as family I held up my hand. I'm not finished." I laid down 10 more deeds, one by one, like a man dealing cards. "These are the other homes I own. All paid off. You spent 5 years thinking you married into one broke old man's single house. You married into a landlord." The table went silent. Sheila's face drained of all its color. Then I set down the last folder. Katie's notes. My photographs. The record of every trick. "You told people I was losing my mind," I said quietly. "You turned on the stove and blamed me. You hid my glasses. You tried to file eviction papers on your own father-in-law in a house he owns free and clear. I have it all documented. Every date, every lie, with a witness." I looked at Katie. She nodded, pale but steady. "Isn't that right, sweetheart?" "Yes, Grandpa," she said. Every word. I laid down one more thing then, the nursing home brochure, the one Katie photographed, the one for a place 2 hours away. "You didn't want to care for me," I said. "You wanted me gone, far enough that I couldn't walk home, so you could sell my house while I sat in a strange room." I let that sit on the table. The relatives who came to witness my surrender were witnessing something else entirely now. They were witnessing a woman's whole plan laid bare, one document at a time. Nobody was eating. The good dishes sat full and cold. Sheila's mouth opened and closed. She reached for a story, any story. "I was going to visit you every week," she said weakly. "Sheila," I said, "you tore out a dead woman's roses and called it tidying. We both know you were never going to visit anyone." She had no answer to that. There is no answer to that. Sheila stood up fast. "This is insane. Dennis, are you going to let him talk to me like this?" Everyone turned to Dennis. My son looked at the deeds. He looked at his daughter Katie. He looked at me. And for the first time in years, he saw clearly. "Sheila," he said slowly, "you told me he left the stove on. Katie says you did it." The room shifted. The truth has weight. When it finally lands, everyone feels the floor move. Now here is where I want you to understand something about me. Sheila did not poison me. She did not raise a hand to me. Her crime was greed and cruelty, not violence. So I did not call the police to drag her away in cuffs. That would have been more than her sin deserved. Instead, I gave her exactly what she tried to give me: an eviction. "Sheila," I said, "you have 30 days to leave my house. I'll even waive the back rent, which, by my count, is 5 years. It was the coldest mercy I have ever served. And it was proportional to the crime." Sheila raged. She called me names. She demanded Dennis choose, and Dennis, my weak, sleepwalking son, finally woke up. "I think you should go, Sheila," he said. "I can't be married to someone who tried to steal from my father and turn me into a liar." She left that night. She slammed the door of the house she thought she had won, and the house, my house, Louise's house, felt lighter the moment she was gone. Dennis did not get off easy either. I did not forgive him with a hug and a handshake. "You let her make me a stranger in my own home," I told him. "You looked away while she boxed up your mother's things. That's on you, not just her." He wept. He apologized. I told him forgiveness would come, but it would be earned, slowly, with changed behavior, not bought with one night of tears. He is earning it now. He moved out to a small apartment. He calls before he visits. He is learning to be a son again instead of an heir. Katie is the hero of this story, not me. That brave young woman risked her whole family to protect her grandfather and her grandmother's memory. So I did something Louise would have loved. I put Katie through nursing school. Paid in full, cash, the way Louise and I did everything. Not because she asked. She never asked for a dime. But because a person who does the right thing when it is hardest deserves to have someone do right by them. That is how you keep the good ones. You show them it pays to be brave. The 30 days passed slowly. Sheila did not go quietly. She tried a few last tricks. She told relatives I was cruel, that I had thrown out a devoted daughter-in-law. But by then everyone had seen the deeds. Everyone had heard Katie. A lie only works until the paper comes out. Louise taught me that. Own the paper, and no one can move you. The paper moved Sheila right out my front door. She sent me one last message before she left the state. "You'll die alone in that house, old man." I read it twice. Then I put my phone down and looked around at Louise's home, at Katie's drawings back on the fridge, at Dennis fixing the porch step to earn his way back. Alone? I had never felt less alone. Sheila did not understand. A house full of people who use you is the loneliest place on earth. A house full of people who love you is never empty, even in the quiet. These days, the house on Behringer is quiet again, but it is my quiet. I put my recliner back where it belongs. I unpacked Louise's things and set her picture on the mantel. I use the good dishes every single day now, because Louise would have hated them sitting in a cabinet. I still wear my flannel shirts. I still drive my 20-year-old truck. And nobody who looks at me would ever guess I own 11 houses. That is exactly how I like it. Katie graduated from nursing school last spring. I sat in the front row. I wore the one suit I own, the one I married Louise in, let out a little at the waist. When they called her name, I stood up and clapped until my old hands hurt. She found me after and hugged me tight. "We did it, Grandpa," she whispered. "No, sweetheart," I told her. "You did it. I just refused to let anyone tell you that you couldn't." Louise was there too. I could feel her, 2 rows back, dabbing her eyes, proud enough to burst. People ask me if I was afraid. All those months, playing along. I was not afraid of losing the house. The paper protected the house. I was afraid of something worse. I was afraid of losing my son for good. That was the real gamble. If I exposed Sheila, would Dennis hate me? Would he choose her? I risked my only child to save us both. That is the quiet terror no deed can cover. In the end, the truth gave me my son back. But I did not know it would. I only knew that a lie, left to grow, poisons everything it touches. So I chose the truth and prayed. I think about Louise every day. I think about the 40 years we spent building something quiet and honest and real. A woman tried to take it in a season when I was too lonely to see her clearly. But Louise's careful bookkeeping, her clean deeds, her insistence that we do everything the right way, all of it reached out from the past and protected me. She is still taking care of me. She always will be. That is what a real partnership does. It outlives the grave. I replanted Louise's garden this year. It took me all spring. My knees are not what they were. I got down in the dirt anyway. Roses, tomatoes, the little bench, sanded and painted fresh. I sit there now at dusk, the way she used to. Some evenings Katie sits with me. Some evenings it is just me and the roses and the memory of a woman who was right about everything. Own the paper. Don't get lonely and foolish, and keep the garden, Vernon. Always keep the garden. Dennis comes by on Sundays now. He helps me weed. We do not talk much. We do not have to. A father and a son pulling weeds in the quiet is its own kind of forgiveness. The first Sunday, he found one of Louise's roses I had missed, still alive in the corner. He held it up and just started crying. "I let her tear out Mom's roses," he said. "I know, son," I told him. "Now help me grow them back." And we did. Some things you cannot undo. But you can plant them again. I still collect the rent on my 11 houses. I still fix the leaky roofs myself, slower than I used to, but I get up there. My tenants think I am just a nice old man in a flannel shirt. Let them. There is great power in being underestimated. Sheila learned that the hard way. At my table, in front of my family, holding a fork over Louise's good dishes. She came for a lonely old man's only house. She forgot to ask how many houses he really had. If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being part of this family. And remember this. When someone is in too much of a hurry to move into your home and take care of you, watch how they treat the things you love. Watch how they speak about you when they think you cannot hear. The ones who love you can wait. Only the ones who want something are always in a rush.